And I understand that just means the person's over 18, but it always makes me think like not suitable for kids. So I'm always like, Tatiana Baskerville, not suitable for children. Anyway. You do, yeah. Okay, so let's get to it. So today we're going to talk about 3 of the functional groups, and you're right, I shouldn't have named this 3 because even though it's our 3rd lesson that we're doing in my system, it's actually 2.4. So I apologize for that. Okay, so the functional groups are these little pieces of these little groups of atoms that we can add on to an alkane that give it different chemical properties and predictable chemical properties. So let's talk about the first of these, which is alcohols. Hi. An alcohol is what we call a hydroxyl group. Break that name down for me. Hydroxyl. Hydrogen. Hydrogen and oxygen. That's it. Now, of course, how many bonds does hydrogen like to make?
1.
And oxygen likes to make? So if the oxygen's already stuck to the hydrogen, how many bonds does it have left? Just 1. So it can just connect to the chain in place of a hydrogen. Even though an oxygen would normally make 2 bonds, a hydroxyl group can only make 1. So we'll look at an example, which is ethanol. And ethanol is interesting because it's just one example of an alcohol, but this is actually what you commonly refer to as alcohol, because this is the primary component you get when you let yeast ferment sugars in the absence of oxygen. We'll talk about that in biology class. But in other words, when you do wine making or beer making, the main alcohol that gets produced is this one ethanol. So let's quickly look at, remind me what ethane is. Just standard old garden variety ethane. 2 carbons, and of course the other 3 bonds that each of those is trying to make? Hydrogen. Very good. So that would be ethane. And in ethanol, the only difference is that one of those bonds is, instead of being made to a hydrogen, is being made to this hydroxyl group. And so this last bond here, what is it going to be bonding to? OH, that's right. An oxygen, which is itself stuck to a hydrogen. By convention, because of course this should really look like that, right? But by convention, to show that this is a functional group, and just to save space, we usually don't bother drawing the bond between the O and the H. We usually just write it as OH. That's a convention, but this is a hydroxyl group. And a hydroxyl group, bless you, confers on this the name of it, or the property of this being an alcohol. And this one we already know the name of. It's ethanol, and that hopefully gives you some insight into how we name these. How do we name these? Yeah, we changed the ending to ol. OL. And that means that we've dropped that E in ethane and we've replaced it with ol. So let's try an example. And of course, in this case, did I need to put a number in that? Why didn't I need to put a number in it? Because it's on carbon 1, so didn't I need to say ethane 1-ol? So I didn't know it's not on carbon 2? Yeah, no matter what, that's where we'd start counting as 1, right? In other words, this molecule, either carbon can be considered carbon 1, right? Doesn't matter. And so we would always just call this ethanol because we don't need a number. But of course, if we do need a number, let's take a look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What kind of molecule do we have here? A pentane, good. And I'm going to put an OH group coming off of carbon number 2. Well, how would we name this? Well, we said it's no longer pentane, but the only thing that gets dropped in the name is that E, and it's going to be replaced with ol. But in this case, do I need to say where it is? Yeah. So this would be pentan 2-ol. Good. Does that make sense? Does that feel okay? This is a molecule that you'd probably know as isopropyl alcohol. Isopropyl is an old name where we used to use iso and all sorts of other prefixes to say where things were. But now, its IUPAC name would be a little different. Name that for me. What's isopropyl alcohol's proper IUPAC name? I shouldn't say proper. Isopropyl is actually an accepted IUPAC name, but it's just more modern. 1, 2, 3. So what's? Yeah, beautiful. Propan 2-ol.
Oh, right.
And the only thing that gets dropped is the E, right? Propan 2 all. Again, if you look this up in an older website, you'll see that listed as 2-propanol. They used to put the number in front, but in the newest version of IUPAC, we always just put the number directly in front of the thing it's affecting. A much better system. This is much, much, much clearer. It's much easier. You should be thankful that you learn it that way. How's that feel? Not too bad? Straightforward, right? Now again, what's an alcohol going to do for this molecule? What's it going to do to this molecule? How's it going to change its properties? Let's say ethanol. Ethane. What's this like at a room temperature? Ethane? You think it's a liquid? It's going to be a gas, right? Because we know that propane's a gas at room temperature, and propane's bigger than that, right? And again, what's the only force we're dealing with here? What is a London dispersion force, by the way? I'm not looking at some of this.
Yeah.
And shaking his maracas. Who's doing the castanets? We got one of those people playing like a gourd.
Temporary
a
force
music.
of dipoles between nonpolar molecules.
Yeah, wow.
That's me saying they like vibrate.
I like the spread of answers here. What's a dipole? Temporary force of a dipole caused by the movement of electrons in an electron cloud versus... It's good. It's really, it's an artistic and it's a thing. I know. I'm not trying to make fun. I liked your answer better, if I'm being honest. Good. Yeah, so this is going to be a gas at room temperature, right? Small nonpolar molecule. Ethanol. What are we going to get here? You're going to get a dipole, right? You're going to get that unequal sharing between oxygen and hydrogen, which means that one ethanol molecule will have dipole, another ethanol molecule will have a dipole. What interaction do we have now? Dipole-dipole interaction. What's that do to that molecule? Talk to me.
Makes it extremely hypothetical.
Yeah, it's going to have a... And we're going to find this is still quite small. And it's also got it's got this chunk of the molecule that isn't like that, right? So it's going to have a high boiling point. How do you think it's going to compare to water's boiling point, for example? Because water has a dipole, and it doesn't have a chunk that doesn't have a dipole. Do you know what I mean? So what do you think? Yeah, and that's actually not immediately easy to figure out. I wouldn't expect you just looking at a picture of that, but there's interesting things that go on. There's an interesting kind of effect there. But yeah, so this has a boiling point that's much, 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 much higher than this. But it's not like stratospherically high either, right? It's not, for example, higher than water. So this is going to be a liquid. And interestingly, it boils off at a lower temperature than water. It will evaporate faster than water. So it does become a gas a little bit more readily than water does. If you put a little drop of water on a table and a little drop of ethanol on the table, the ethanol is going to evaporate a lot faster, right? It's going to make its way into the air a lot faster. But still, what if you mixed it with water? Can it separate into layers, or is it going to mix? It's going to mix. Why is it going to mix?
Oh, because they're both liquids.
Because they're both liquids, okay, but oil and water are both liquids. They don't mix.
Because they both
have
have
the same,
Oh, now we're getting the cat. Now we got somebody on the, I don't know what instrument this is. The glasses, like.
I won't say viscosity, but I don't think that's right.
Yeah, not viscosity. Yeah, that's right. This is hydrophilic, and this is hydrophobic. Why is this hydrophilic? Because it has the OH, which imparts what property to it? Dipole. Yeah, that dipole gives us dipole. So, in other words, a dipole interaction doesn't have to be just between two ethanol molecules. An ethanol molecule has a dipole. A water molecule has a dipole. They will also interface with each other just fine. You can get that dipole-dipole interaction, right? Good. So, alcohols are miscible in water. They dissolve in water, where alkanes don't. They have a higher boiling point than these do, a higher melting point than these do. Good. Does that make sense? So it fundamentally changes. It's just the addition of one oxygen, and otherwise it's the exact same thing, and yet it fundamentally changes the physical and chemical properties of that molecule. This is much more reactive, because that oxygen is highly what? Relative to carbon? Electronegative. So these are more reactive, right? This will dissolve in your blood, and does. This is small enough that not only will it dissolve in your blood, but it will cross the blood-brain barrier, which is designed to filter chemicals out before the blood goes to your brain. As a result of the fact that it crosses the blood-brain barrier, it will interact with your brain, because alcohol is, of course, a neurotoxin. That's right. Yeah, something to keep in mind next time you're drinking your face off on the weekend is that you're literally blasting your brain with a neural toxin.
What's the point?
That's the point is a fascinating sentence, but we'll move on from it. Anyway, it may be present with alkyl groups. I'm going to give you a name here. You draw it for me. Let's try a... Thank you. Let's try a 2-methyl butane. Give me a number here.
4.
Nah, it can't be 4 because you wouldn't number it that way.
3.
Your options really are 1 or 2.
1.
1 it is. 1 all. Okay, there we go. I don't know why I asked for a number. That was a bad decision. So draw that, and then I'm going to draw one here, and I want you to give me the name.
Oh wait, why am I? I don't remember what I did. I'm stroking out.
Don't do that.
But where'd you get the F from? Oh, you want me to give it a name? Sorry, I thought you were drawing.
No, I'm not drawing this. These are 2 separate ones.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Draw this. Give me that name. All right, take 2 minutes. Do it. Take your time. Everyone do it. Don't wait for me. Why wait for me? I already know this stuff. Well, you'd know it. So take your time, try and draw it. Worst case scenario, you make a mistake and then you erase it. Let's go on these psychopaths who does the looking pen first time out. Crazy person. I don't care. I'm just joking. It's okay. Yeah. No, these are 2 different things. So I want a drawing here, I want a name there. Sorry, I should have been more clear about that. There you go. And if you feel like you got it, go draw it. I don't let Kiki be the only person who's got any drawing today.
She's an artist.
What do I get? Thanks for the day. I will. I'll text all your friends. And say, this is an L. I decided to run away to run the circus.
Doesn't even get a response.
Run away to run the circus. Yeah.
The OH group is like less than line, right? Like put that less.
Well, you don't have to put it in line alphabetically at all because in this case it goes where in terms of numbering. We actually give it numbering priority. Yeah. I was going to talk about that when we got numbering this.
I love numbering things.
Okay, save some for the others. Save some for the others. That's good, though. Let's talk about this name. Do we like this name? 4-ethyl 5-methyl heptan 2-ol. Do we like the heptan of it? Oh, God, what did I just do?
You didn't like it.
No, well, that's what we're deciding. No, I'm just moving it so it fits on the page. Because otherwise, if people go to print these, if it sweeps off the page, then all of a sudden it cuts them all down to half size, and then it's a nightmare. So anyway, okay. Do we like the heptan of it? Is this a hept? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? I like that. Do we like that there is a methyl on carbon 5? I think so. Do we like that there's an ethyl on carbon 4?
That's not ethyl.
Do we like that there's an ethyl on carbon 4?
He's so red. Look at him.
That one wasn't on purpose. Usually they're on purpose and I feel smug, but that one wasn't on purpose. That was just me being dumb. Anyway, that's okay. Do we like that there's an ethyl on carbon 4?
I guess so.
Yeah, I do. I like it. And do we have an alcohol on 2? Yeah, looks good. Now it didn't come up here, but if there'd been a methyl here as well, what do we give the lower number to? The functional group or the methyl group? Yeah, because which one of those has a bigger impact on the nature of this molecule? The functional group. Does that make sense? Functional groups always take numbering priority over other side chains and substituents because they have like the greatest impact on the chemical nature of that compound. And in fact, as we learn about more functional groups, we'll kind of teach you the hierarchy of which ones take numbering priority, which functional groups are considered sort of more transformative. What's this drawing look like? It's a butte. So how many?
4.
1, 2. I feel like a hockey dad all of a sudden. It's Butte.
And then on the end of 1, there's
I feel like I should be calling somebody bro right now.
and on the end of 2, or on the end of 2, there's a methyl.
Okay, there's a methyl group on 2.
And there's an OH on 1.
There's an OH on 1. Good. Yeah, looks great. By the way, if it's more convenient to do so, we write it like that. It doesn't matter, right? Like, obviously, what you don't want to do is this. What does that imply? Why is that bad if we're drawing this? Yeah, it's implying that the H is making how many bonds? 2. Does H make 2 bonds? No. So if it's more appropriate to write it like that, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But make sure you don't have H making 2 bonds. Because does H make 2 bonds? No. Yeah, that's great. Yep, absolutely. You can have double or triple bonds, right? What would that be called? What's this?
Propene without the E, and then it would be prop 1En
Yeah?
2OL.
Yeah, very good. Prop 1-ene 2-ol. And again, you don't come across a billion of these things, and these names are clumsy, but yeah, prop 1-ene 2-ol. Good. What would this stupid thing be called? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 carbon chain. So what do we call it? Yeah, so it's butane, but of course it's not butane anymore. It's butene. And again, what's going to get numbering priority? The triple bond or the alcohol?
Alcohol.
The alcohol, which means the triple bond starts on what carbon?
4.
It ends on 4. Where does it start? So we'd say bute 3. Triple bond. Ine. Very good. Do I put the E?
No.
No.
And then 1 or all.
There you go. Bute 3, ine 1-ol. Again, these names are clumsy. We don't see a lot of this, but the name is descriptive. And again, if you go to mole view and plug that in, it's going to draw that exactly. Let's go to mole view. Sorry? Things seem to be going faster again. I'm wondering if my little coding got all my primes for me. Anyway, what did we say that was? Bute 3-ine 1-ol? And look, there she is. Why is that straight? It looks like a dog with like the longest, straightest tail in the world and only 1 leg. No, it's got 2 legs. It's just been horribly twisted. I guess what I'm saying is I don't think this looks like a dog. And also, if your dog looks like this, go to a vet. All right, go find a vet. Why is this straight? SP what?
Oh my god.
And what's the bond angle in SP hybridization? How many of the carbons have SP hybridization? How many of the carbons have SP hybridization? 2. This one, right, making 2 pi bonds. This one making 2 pi bonds. This guy here, what's its hybridization state? sp3. And what are all the bond angles around it? 109.5. And this one, sp3, bond angles? 109.5. What about this oxygen? What's its hybridization state? Yeah, sp3. And what's that bond angle roughly? Yeah, 109.5. Will it be a little more or a little less, or exactly 109.5? A little less. Why? It's got what? And what do lone pairs do? Yeah, they have a greater repulsive force than a sigma bond, right? And so we get greater hindrance from those. We get greater interference. So that compresses that bond angle. So that could be, I don't know, 107, 108. We could ask J Mole. It'd just be a... Yeah, look at that. I guess it looks like it. I guess that's like what my dog looks like when he's peeing. Now that I'd... Yeah, and what angle does it give us there? 107. You know, typical angle there. Okay. Now, we can classify these as primary, secondary, or tertiary. Or teachery. They can be primary, secondary,
No, I thought
secondary,
it was
or
primary and secondary teacher. No.
oh, there we go.
Okay.
That's true. You can.
Well, this one's just a blank page, so.
Okay. In each case, we're going to work
You
with.
said my name.
Okay.
Okay.
Every time someone says K, I think there's something.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
You actually said K's name.
What's that?
You actually said K's name.
Okay, stop.
Girl, you're hurting my brain, and I'm right
Yeah,
next
just
to you.
stop. Okay, no more. Okay. Shh. I'm going to draw these, and then you're going to explain this concept to me. Primary, secondary, and tertiary. I'm going to draw 3 examples. I'm going to explain to you. Shh. I'm going to explain to you. I'm going to show you 3 examples, and then you're going to explain to me what the difference between a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary alcohol is. This doesn't really become an important concept until. Shh. Thank you. It doesn't really become an important concept until we get dealing with reactions of these things. But I want you to already be thinking in terms of, again, we know the effect of these, right? We know that an alcohol gives this a dipole. We know that giving it a dipole means that instead of just having London dispersion forces, it now has also dipole-dipole interactions, hydrogen bonding, which means that it holds them closer together. It makes them have a higher boiling point, a higher melting point. It makes them miscible in water. But we want to think about the other types of properties we can get from this. So first, I just want you to just see if you can find the pattern. Why is one of these called a primary alcohol, the other called a secondary, the other called a tertiary? And may I never have to say that word again.
I think it just is based on where the OH is.
I think you're right. So
Wait, it's in the same spot on both of them.
Oh, because one has
got
more
the
carbons.
Theme, got the theme above her. What, methyl? That's an addition. Yeah. I get methyl and ethyl mixed up.
all right, at the table you're at, I want you to determine who lives with the largest animal. And if you're the only person at the table, talk to the person at the table next to you. Who has the largest animal at home? Not counting humans.
I have a French.
So talk to the people at your table, figure it out.
I have my sister.
Come on, get talking, figure it out. You got 30 seconds, I want to know.
So definitely not. I have a little dog.
I have like a black lab king shepherd and a pit bull mastiff, so I think I win.
All right,
And that's our counting siblings.
okay, once we have determined who has the largest animal, person at the table with the largest animal, you're going to explain to your friends your best theory, what you think primary, secondary, and tertiary means.
Bro.
Get on it, go.
Okay, I think primary.
I didn't care, get on it. Come on, talk.
Primary
Talk to your friends.
because the OH is able to like knock off easy because it's on the end. Secondary because when bonding, the OH is easier to move around the thing when bonding, and then tertiary because there's an extra thing and it's a third level type thing.
The biggest animal at home. Okay, perfect. So it's not you. What do you got? Not that you got like ants.
Okay.
Yeah, ants in summer. I get ants. They come in my kitchen. I put them in the little traps. I guess I win. I gotta go. All right. I look at these and I see that the one we call primary, the OH is stuck on an end, right? Whereas the one we call secondary, it's on the okay. So I think that's pretty easy to understand. If it's on the end, we'll call it primary. If it's inside, we call it secondary. I'm a little confused what's going on with tertiary. Yeah. Yeah. Now we actually don't call that methylene function. We actually call that side chain. That's cool. You're right. So it has. That's okay. It has a side chain. And where is the side chain relative to the
Yeah, it was popping here.
I had
tutoring. Does that make sense? So that carbon that has your alcohol also has another branch. And that's male. That's exactly right. So if it's by itself on the end, I have primary. If it's by itself in the middle,
I have purine.
but if it's
Oh,
on the
I heard
middle,
I have
and
pee
there's a
ring.
branch, I call
What
that.
does that have to do with anything?
Does that make sense?
Like, what?
I don't even know what that means.
I don't know either. You're the one who almost said it.
And even if there's a branch somewhere else,
What do you
there's
think
not a
you're
branch
doing?
on that carbon, then we still call it secondary.
Trust is grade 9.
Okay,
Kind of like Kaden.
I'm gonna add something here because I want to show. So let's say we went a little longer, and now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6. Quiet, Kate. Don't tell me my business. Okay. So let's say we put on all of these, we put a methyl group up on carbon 2. Is that cool? Okay.
Don't do that.
If I want to make this a primary alcohol, where can I put the alcohol?
At the end.
At the end. Does it matter which end?
Yes.
Does it?
Yes.
If I put it here, would it be primary?
Yes.
Yeah. If I put it here, would it be primary?
No.
What do you think?
Because you gotta put the 1-all if it's at the front, but if it's at
Sure, that has to do with the name, but just in terms of, listen, if I put it here, is it an alcohol? Sure. Would it be a primary alcohol?
No.
Yeah. What's so great? I agree. It doesn't matter which side I put it on. Either one would be a primary. So what makes something a primary alcohol?
being on the end.
Okay, so it's on the end of a chain. Good. That's easy, right? And I heard a lot of that, by the way, as I was walking around. Cool. Okay, where could I put the alcohol here that it would be a secondary alcohol? In the middle? Got it.
What in the world is that?
I did what you told me to do!
No, you didn't.
Holy moly.
It's not even the middle.
Take a
of
chill
the
pill.
line.
It's not even the middle.
How's that, Natalia?
You
On the
circled
ends
middle and
of the
put an H
middle.
right beside it. That wasn't even
Okay. Can I put it here?
The middle carbon.
Would that be secondary?
I think so.
Cool. Because we said both those would be. Would that be secondary?
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, I don't like maybe. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay. What about here?
No.
No.
No, what would that be?
Primary.
Okay. What about here?
Yeah.
No. That would be tertiary.
Ah.
Tertiary.
So now that we're looking at tertiary, where could it go here?
Underneath the methyl.
Here. Anywhere else?
No.
Agreed. So talk to me. What makes something a secondary alcohol?
It's in the middle of the chain, but not connected to another layer of.
Yeah, I like that. And give it to me? Yeah, in other words, what's the other thing here? Because there is another thing here, but what is it? Hydrogen. Good. So on a carbon inside the chain, but no branch there. And then what makes this a tertiary alcohol?
Below a branch.
On a carbon that also has a branch. Is it possible to have an alcohol on a carbon that has 2 branches? Why not?
Because it doesn't have enough.
That's right. How many bonds can carbon make?
4.
So if it's got the 2 it's making to be in the chain and 1 to the alcohol, it only has 1 left to make 1 more branch. Does that make sense? So these are the 3 possibilities.
Ow, my
It can be, I'm sorry, it can be on the end of a chain, in which case we call it
Primary.
primary. It can be inside the chain, but with that hydrogen across from it, not a branch on the chain. We call that.
Secondary.
And then it can be inside the carbon with a branch across from it, and in that case it will be
Tertiary.
tertiary. Which one of these is going to have the dipole that has kind of the most effect? Which one of these is going to have that dipole really readily accessible and easy for, say, a water molecule to find?
Primary.
Yeah, primary or secondary, right? Which one's obviously going to have kind of more shielding on that dipole, harder for a water to find its way to?
Tertiary.
Tertiary. Do you think they'd probably have different physical and chemical properties? Yeah. Does that make sense? To say nothing of the reactivity, and we'll get to that when we talk about reactions. But I always want you to think, I don't want these just to be things you memorize. It's so easy to just be like, oh, I memorize, I know what it's called. But you think, like, why do we bother talking about the functional groups to begin with? Because they are functional groups. What do they do to our alkane? They change their function. They change their shape. They change their behavior. They change their properties. They change how they react. They change how they interact with their environment. And eventually, as we get building organic molecules, when you're a rich and famous pharmaceutical scientist, and remembering your very nice grade 12 chemistry teacher who never screamed at you that they did exactly what you told them to do, and you want to, like, I don't know, buy them a Tesla, what you'll be doing is saying, where can we put, it's a vehicle. I want a Cybertruck, but I'm broke and cheap. You know that you're wrong. No, what? No, I would never say that. What I was going to say was, you've got to be kidding me. No, I think they're so amazing. I mean, that's a different discussion. We've got to do chemistry right now. It's like the first interesting car design in 65 years. Every vehicle has just looked the same as every other vehicle since the 60s. And all of a sudden now somebody's made something interesting and I want one. Also, it's stainless steel. That's so cool. And the underbody, one piece, a single piece of stamped. They built the world's largest steel forged press to hot press the undercarriage of that vehicle. It's crazy. That's crazy. You look under your car and it's a whole, there's thousands of pieces of metal and they're all bolted together. This thing, one piece of metal, like a little toy car, only it's the size of that thing. I want one, but what I don't want to have to do is pay for it. That's why I need you to become a world famous pharmaceutical scientist, get loaded, and then have pity on me. Pity. What? Kiki, you've hurt my feelings. Anyway, okay. Okay. How am I doing for time? We're going to skip this. We'll come back to that. Okay. All right. I want to move on to the next, which is aldehydes. Aldehydes are related to alcohols in the sense that it is replacing a constituent here with an oxygen. But in this case, we don't want the oxygen to be stuck to a hydrogen. We want to take a carbon chain and just put an oxygen on the end of it. Does that make sense? And aldehydes are, by definition, on a terminal carbon. What's terminal mean? Yeah, it means at one or the other end of the chain. So one end of a chain. All right, if you go to the bus terminal, that's where the route stops or starts, or both, because the terminal's a big loop. Or the bus route's a big loop. So, what kind of bond does it have to make to oxygen? If we're going to put just an oxygen on, not an oxygen and a hydrogen? Why? Yeah, that's right. Does that make sense? If it's going to put an oxygen on the end of a chain, it's going to have to put a double bond oxygen on the end of a chain, because how many bonds does oxygen need to make? 2. Yeah, good. Somebody said 0, and that made me sad. It made me feel like I did my job poorly. But that's right. So we could look at a simple example here. Let's take ethane, and let's give it a double bond to oxygen. What angle should I draw these at? Because carbon's making one connection here. How many is it going to make to the oxygen? How many will it have left? What's the hybridization state there? Is she right? Of course she's right. Guys, did you just doubt Kate? That hurts my feelings. So if it's sp2 hybridization because there's one pi bond, what's the bond angle? 120. So let's draw it at roughly 120. Like that. Okay. Now, this is where it is really helpful to be from Buffalo. Anyone here from Buffalo? You ever go to Buffalo? I love Buffalo. I think of Buffalo as my big city. I don't think of Toronto as my big city. I always went to concerts in Buffalo. It smells like frosted flakes in the air. And really, what else do you need to know? They should put that on the sign coming into the city. Buffalo, they currently call it the city of good neighbors. They should just cross that right off and call it the city of the faint aroma of frosted flakes. I think they would double the... Who needs good neighbors when you have the smell of frosted flakes? But you know that Western New York accent? By which I mean that accent. They kind of really hit that A in that kind of really interesting way, where you can go to Rochester, but then you can go to Tonawanda. That really, how the A has that eh sound to it. That's really useful here because here's how we name this. We would call this ethan, we drop the E, and we call it ethanal. Now the problem is, in English, we tend to just use the schwa sound for all of our vowels because we're lazy. So ethanol. Do you see what I'm saying?
Ethanol.
So the problem is, how do you tell the difference between ethanol and ethanal? And the answer is, if you just say it really quickly and without pronunciation, they just both get that same sound, ethanol. So what you really want to do is make sure you kind of hit those pronunciations. This is ethanol, and this is ethanal. L. And again, that's where I want you to think like when you cross the border and you're like, how much is that? And they're like, it's $3. Al, like it's that where you're like faking a smile. It's like the fake customer service smile you do at work while also saying the letter A. Ethanol. Yes, of course I do. I love customer service. I'm a restaurant guy. I care about customer service.
I care about them sometimes.
So, all right. Now, here's the nice thing. Let's make a really long one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And let's put a double bond oxygen here. What would that be called? Oh, so you just did it though. Go. Yeah, because honestly, I'm not being funny. You said it, and I was like, "Yep, OL." But it's not OL. It's AL for aldehyde. So you got to be careful with that. Heptanal. So why don't I need to call this heptan 1-al?
Because they can't go on anything but
That's right. It is by definition on the end, so we don't need a number. That's nice, right? Could be present with something else. Now, aldehydes always take numbering priority. Always, always, always. Now, you could have 2 of them, in which case it would be a... Do we need to number it even if it has 2 of them? It'd just be a dial. And you still don't need numbers because one will be on one end and the other one will be on the other end. Could they be on the same end?
No.
Could you ever have a case like this?
No.
Too many bonds. So if you had a dial, it just has to be one on each end, right? But you could have alkyl groups. You could have halide groups. Doesn't matter. Let's do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do a double bond oxygen here. Let's do a chlorine there. And let's do an ethyl group there. Okay. Name that for me, please. Okay, we're going to be all right for time.
what's too bad? You do 2 pentanal. Not all. That's what I got.
You know what? Yeah, I know, right? But that's what like that is like hypothesis testing. That is like basically how science tests stuff. But the good news is because you're going to be doing lots of it, like by like second and third year, you won't forget. Now, hey, I got these for play in case I should make those. Do the optics here. But actually, I was playing around with it really much nicer. All right, talk to me, team. What do we got?
2,4,03.
Oh,
Pent ale. Pent,
Great, write that.
pent and AL.
Yeah, good, write that. That was good.
Ooh.
I don't know, you. I'll give it to you. All right. I'm gonna,
I can't breathe.
of course you can. I've seen you do it.
What?
Okay, now talk to me about the properties of an aldehyde. Talk about the properties of an aldehyde. What would you want to know that would kind of help you determine a few things about this? What are the physical properties of an aldehyde going to be?
It makes a double bond to an O at the end.
Sure. So what does that do for its intermolecular forces? Does that have a dipole? What would you have to know to determine that? The what? I thought somebody said CNO. What about them? The delta EN, right? Your difference in electronegativity. Carbon's what, 2.2? Something like that? But what did we just draw? We just drew 2-chloro-3-ethylheptanal. 2-chloro-3-ethylpentanal. All right? And look, is that what we drew? Yeah. Yeah. So where are we going to ignore the chlorine for a second? Obviously, we're going to get a dipole here, right? What about the aldehyde itself? Do aldehydes give us dipoles? What if we did an easy one? And what if we just did propanal? Is this going to have a dipole? Because, yeah, I think carbon's 2 point something and oxygen 3 point something, right? Both in the middle. So it's about a delta EN of 1. Is that enough for a dipole? Yeah. So we should get a bond dipole here. And if we get a bond dipole there, like much, much, much bigger than any of those carbon-hydrogen dipoles, which means, do we get an overall dipole? Should do, right? Right? Which means, what can you tell me about this molecule? Will it be miscible in waters or in oils? Like, what will it dissolve in? Water, right? Because like dissolves like. Would it dissolve in an alcohol? If I had a pure alcohol, could I dissolve an aldehyde in it? Are alcohols polar? Yeah, that's right. Good. So we're starting to see that a lot of our functional groups so far are polar in nature, although not everyone is. But there we go. Note, they're always primary because they're always on end. Now, sometimes you'll get a situation where you have an alcohol and an aldehyde. We consider that an aldehyde. And this becomes now a side chain. When there's a more important functional group, we now consider this a hydroxy group. This one can be tricky to remember, all right? But what we don't do is name this as an all-al or an al-all or something like that. Instead, we now put this out in front as a hydroxy. In this case, what carbon's the hydroxy on? 2. So we would call this 2-hydroxy. And then keep going for me. Keep going. Pentan what? Pentanal. That's right. Pentan AL. There you go. All right. So again, when it's an alcohol and an aldehyde, then we name that alcohol as a side group. We name it as out in front because it's a less important functional group. Does that make sense? Which means A, it loses its naming priority. It just becomes a group out front. But B, it will also never take numbering priority, right? The aldehyde will always be number 1 in terms of how you number your carbons. Even if the alcohol were over here on carbon 5, we're definitely going to call the aldehyde carbon 1. Questions about that? That's just a naming convention. There's nothing magical about that. Okay. Lastly, does a double bond oxygen have to be a primary? Does it have to be primary? Does it have to go on the last carbon? Or could it go inside a chain? Could it be secondary? Yeah, it could be. So let's look at an example. If we have propane, is there any reason this can't make a double bond oxygen? By the way, what would these angles actually be? 120, right? And then this would also connect to hydrogens. and this would also connect to hydrogens. This is what we call a ketone. If it's inside the chain, we don't call it an aldehyde, we call it a ketone. What would this one be called? Well, propanone. The -one ending tells you that it's a ketone. Now, this does require a number, so why didn't I put one here? Because there's only one inside carbon here, so there's only one place for it to go. Any more complicated one requires a number. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if I put the ketone on carbon 2, how would we name a hexane with a ketone on carbon 2? We'd call it hexan 2-one. Very good. That make sense? It does, doesn't it? But we don't pronounce it one. So it's not propan 1, it's propanone. It's not hexan 2-one, it's hexan 2-one. We're doing all right. A ketone with branching chains, just to give an example. Let's put, I don't know, let's put a methyl group there. Let's put an ethyl group here, and let's put our ketone there. All right, name that. Yeah, ketone will get numbering priority. Though in this case, it's not tied with anything, so you'll still number from the left. So if it were tied with something, if it was a question of they're both going to give you 2 as the lowest number, then you give the ketone the 2. But in this case, it's 2 versus 3, so you still go with the 2. Does that make sense?
Is this ready?
Yep. Let me see. Sorry, I didn't say yes as in yes I know because I don't have like hypervision. 3 ethyl, yeah. 2 methyl, hexane, 4. Oh, yeah, that's great. Well done.
No. I just did it like this way because I thought like the O.
What's our main chain? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's a hexane. Now, again, we say this gets numbering priority, and it does, but it doesn't. That would be like as a tiebreaker. So we still go with lowest numbers overall. So in this case, our lowest numbers overall just go with us counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you went the other way, again, it wouldn't be wrong. It would just be suboptimal. Not a big deal. So what are our side groups?
3 ethyl.
Should I put the 2 methyl first or the 3 ethyl?
3 ethyl because alphabetical order.
Yeah, very good. So 3 ethyl.
2 methyl. Hexane. 4 O.
Excuse the interruption, folks. On today's cafeteria menu, we have minestrone soup, assorted substance sandwiches, freshly made Caesar salad, and for the main, we have chicken crunch sandwiches with fries. And on tomorrow's menu, we have chicken vegetable soup, Caesar salad again, and chili in a bread bowl with cheese. Thanks for listening. Have a great day, Eagles.
I think cheese makes everything better. It's like bacon. It's the food you add to other foods to make those foods better.
I'm lactose intolerant.
If you can eat bacon. Not everyone can eat bacon.
Be in the same room as milk without the
And some people can't eat cheese.
I'm lactose
If you're like vegan, what's the food you add to other foods to make it taste better? Yeah, but like for sure, like seasoning, but there's not like a thing. Because like bacon's a thing where like, if you're a bacon eater, like you just wrap stuff in it.
Yeah, my mom.
You're like, oh, asparagus is all right, I don't love it. Oh, we wrap it in bacon. Okay. Or like, oh, that filet, that's pretty good steak. They're like, wrap it in bacon. And then I feel like cheese is the other thing, right? Like you just shred cheese on stuff and that's like, well, that makes that better. I don't know what the vegan equivalent of that would be. Sorry?
Vegan cheese.
Yeah, that's true.
Vegan cheese.
You know what? That's a good answer, actually. Soy sauce makes everything taste better. Sriracha sauce. Love that sriracha sauce. You can put that thing on everything.
So no,
Wasn't there like a sriracha sauce over
I like
there?
Frank's.
Like,
Frank's
right
is good.
here a couple weeks ago?
Yeah. Yeah, we had a conversation about sriracha sauce here, and I was like, I'm going to bring some sriracha sauce in. So I did. And I went home, and we had 2 of them. So I was like, well, that's perfect. I can bring 1 to my work. All right, guys, I'm going to leave you with that last example to do for homework, and then also the homework for homework. And listen, I can't stress enough. Yeah, do it for homework. There's no question there. We left it. Okay, listen. Shh. This stuff is just the spelling. It's just grammar. Does that make sense? But you got to know it before we can start talking about organic chemistry in a more interesting way, talking about how this stuff works. Does that make sense? So you got to learn it, and you got to learn it quick. All right? We're just going to keep pounding away at this so you've got it, because I want to get to the interesting side of this unit as fast as we can. Does that make sense? Also, I need, in the next couple of days, you to have your lab notebooks. Bring them on in, because we're going to prep for our first lab. If you don't have a lab notebook, I need you to come talk to me, all right? Okay. Hey, how you doing? I'm doing well. It's nice to see you. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's great.
I'm going home to eat
Nice.
and take a.
All right, guys, have a wonderful day. Be kind to one another. Make sure you pack up your stuff. Oh, great. Did you take 3U with me?
Yeah.
Did I use lab notebooks that year, or was that the one year I didn't? So I might still. Did I give you yours back? I might still have yours. I'll look through my archives.
Have you found mine? I already made a new one, so it's fine. I made a new one.
It was so tempting to do the classic, like, yo, yeah, I found it right here, and then like pull the middle finger out of my pocket, but I didn't. I refrained myself. But for some reason, that was my first instinct. Like, oh yeah, basketball, I got it right here, and I was like, no, I can't do that. That'd be highly inappropriate. But then my first thing I did was then tell you that that's what I was thinking, which did not make it more appropriate.
So
I have a habit of just saying what's on my mind, which I hope means that people know that I'm sincere when I say things and that I mean what I say.
also, I know it would have been like, not great because you're a teacher. I don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
I would have given.
I made a new one.
I in
anyways.
fact, hold myself
I
to a
know.
professional standard.
I know, but I made a new one.
I mean, I feel like it all the time, but I do in
I
fact.
made a new one.
Yes.
I have a couple of questions, but this is
Sure.
So, I know that these are wrong, but I didn't want to erase
That's
them.
okay. Can I take a look? Yeah, no. Don't erase wrong work.
I
That's
saw,
okay.
on Hundo, like these, like the last 2.
These 2? Or these 2? Okay. Yeah. So the good thing is that you're not wrong. There's just a better name, which is that, like, okay, yeah, that chain's 7, but what if instead of going down that chain, what if we went here? Now how long is the chain? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sure. Still a chain, right? Because remember that these aren't actually straight. The actual angles are 1 and 9.5.
I'm not telling you. Show up.
Don't tell me what to do. I'm not your
you.
dancing monkey.
The person who is not supposed
Okay,
to.
Baskerville.
No.
Calm and demure leadership.
No.
Calm and demure leadership isn't. Well,
not how I do it.
well, skill you're gonna have to learn.
And
Easy way, hard way. Sooner or later.
way I do it.
that's
Okay,
like the
well.
whole course of junior leadership. That I
Quiet you. Okay.
Do we hand these in or do we just keep them?
I don't want them yet. I don't have a place for them yet. I will want them. I don't want them yet. Does that make sense? So, like, a chain is a chain is a chain because even though we draw these as straight lines, nothing is straight unless it's triple bonds, right? Unless it's SP hybridization, it's crazy angles anyway. So this is kind of a nasty way to draw it because it's sort of intentionally confusing. But that's longer. But is there a longer chain than that even? Well, sure. What if we went boom, 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 boom? Well, now that chain longer still. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 with an ethyl group and with a methyl group. Does that make sense? So your answer is not wrong. If you plug that into MoleView, it's going to draw you this. But if you draw this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 methyl, 5 ethyl, 5 methyl decane, it'll also draw you this, and that's considered a better name. Does that make sense? Yes. That's all. And then same thing with this. Where's your longest chain? Well, I think the longest chain would probably be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that path, which then would be on carbon 4 we have a methyl, and on carbon 6 we have an ethyl. So 6 ethyl, 4 methyl, no name. But again, yours isn't wrong. There's just a cleaner name for it. Does that make sense? But what you never had, there's no such thing as a 1 methyl. Because 1 methyl just means oh hey, add a carbon to the end of the chain, but then why not just that's just part of the chain then? Does that make sense? So that I really would say is wrong. Like because otherwise, I mean, you could say, I mean, you could take pentane and call it 1-methyl 3-methyl propane, right? But that's silly. Does that make sense? Okay. How you doing? You don't look okay. You look tired and stressed.
You're right.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay. Do you know if Tatiana's like hating my guts or something, or if she's like purposely ignoring me?
I think she's frustrated with you. Yeah, if you want my honest answer.
Is this a dollar?
Grab a chair. Let's chat for a minute.
Like I tried talking to her about it, she just hasn't.
Grab a chair. Pull up. I'll be with you in just a minute. Okay. I'll see you later.
Have you come back to biology's house yesterday?
Yep. Yeah, I'll get back to you in bio. Yeah. You want my honest answer? I think she's just stressed and like whatever. It's that thing we all do where you kind of find it whatever. You get stressed and then things around you freak you out and piss you off. But I don't think she's being fair to you, to be honest with you. But I don't think she sees that. But I don't think it's about you. You know what I mean? I think it's one of these classic things where somebody, oh, kiddo. Oh, such a good kid. Do you want to go to my office? Or in the back prep room? I'll go in the back prep room. Here, I'll give you some rides here.
Last time. How's Logan doing? Oh, he's been. I've probably been in like his problem relapsed. That doesn't happen again. He's doing alright. He's doing he's been eating stuff that he should be eating. What's your job? You can apply to his bodyguard.
No, I love it.
I do a whole bunch of shit. It's fun. Good fun.
Oh
Did they kick out like? I can tell you about last week alone. Oh boy. I only had 3 shifts last week, so we'll start with number 1. In the parking garage, half hour chasing the same 6 druggies around. Oh. I chase them up downstairs. I got death threats, everything. Next day, I roll into work. Everything's fine. I'm on the slow door because we have a show. The door I'm on is mostly old people. Maybe ID like 10 people. Slow shift. 2 hours before I'm about to clock out, truck catches fire in the garage. Someone set it on fire. So now I'm dealing with that. The next day, I stroll into work. 2 people go down with serious medical. Oh, that was just last week. Jesus Christ.
Stairs, get out.
You're still on the list for best friend.
Holy shit. Typically 8.5 hours. They can go up to 9. Sometimes they're shorter. Slow season right now.
Surprised that he doesn't use Snapchat.
Yeah, literally.
Not that bad.
You could have like Snap for over 1,000 million.
I get to do fun shit too. Like I'm escorting carts with quite literally a couple $1 million worth of money. The other day I signed off on a receipt to have 2 people escort 30 grand through the floor.
Jesus. Like real physical cash.
$100 bills in bands.
Oh my god. You got one of the fancy jobs that's worth money all over.
I can get to areas that need my fingerprint.
Jesus.
I can go into a room with millions upon millions of dollars just sitting there in chips, locked up. I have full access to it. I can walk in whenever I
And they
want.
trust you with this amount of money?
Yep.
You must be pretty loyal. Although security guard, if you can, I mean, that's millions of dollars right there. But if you were to get caught with that amount of money, I think you'd be out.
It's not possible.
Yeah.
It's not. Because you need so much to get through there.
Then again, even with like 100,000, no, not 100,000, maybe tens of thousands of dollars in chips.
light either. Yeah, no. Even if you got my badge, you could never get through most of the scanners. Not to mention you've never been in a casino, but if you ever go when you turn 19, just look at the roof and just count the cameras. You can't.
I mean, casinos are built to keep that money in there. You're supposed to gamble for it, not take it.
Oh, yeah, you don't have to deal with everything.
And people try to rob.
Nice. They have tried theft, but not like money theft.
Like no heists, no anything, none of that movie stuff.
No, none of that movie shit. You get through the front door, maybe. That's as far as you can. That's about it.
Still don't have my own job in a movie, so I go into college and try and find some trade job. My brother is thinking of going back to Chico's doing that, and maybe doing the pre-apprenticeship stuff that my mom was in. She's a college professor in there. Crazy.
Yeah, that would work. I hope he gets to go back to it all. Hope it all settles out for him, but I haven't talked to him in months.
He's cut off on his family because of how bad the Crohn's was. Anybody who was isolated, I felt awful. I felt awful for him. It feels to be stuck in a bed with no one else but yourself. Do nothing.
Get that. So where are you in now? 11 or 12?
12.
This is your final year now.
Yep.
And what, the semester ends in a couple of weeks?
No, couple months.
Is this semester 1 or 2?
2.
It's 2 now?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, so we got a couple months left.
We did some weird experimental shit with their semesters. Like for grade 11, they did like our exam schedule on this fucking year. There was like, I don't know what they were doing, but it started off with the second fucking exam, and 3 and 4, and then there was a break, and then the first exam started. What the fuck were they thinking when making this?
I only did 1 exam through all my years. 9
Really?
through 12, I did 1 exam, and that was for grade 10 French because I had no choice. Ask Will about that. We had to do it at times.
It was during the COVID thing, so things were iffy there. People didn't. Why didn't they just like
kicked off for us?
Why didn't they just do the exams?
Well, back when we were in grade 10, shit was normal. Because that was the first semester. Second semester towards the end, it kicked. Then grade 11 for us was when I got fucked.
And then you guys didn't have any exams.
We didn't even do any of the like tests. We didn't do a literacy test, nothing. We never passed for all of them.
At least I did the literacy test.
Again, you guys got to do everything. We got lucky. We had perfect time to skip everything.
It was in our adolescent high school years, first and second year of high school. So a lot of problems rose up with that, especially with trying to work around the workload.
Basically, you're scared of black. Right.
You're outside, you're outside. You're going to college?
But college applications, they're taking like, there's like the first batch of people that want to go into like a college program, and then there's a second batch, which is just secondary, and they like put you whenever, which is, I think is maybe it's because like there's a few slots missing, so they put the secondaries into the. Yeah. And it has a fucking whole
How'd that
time
essay go? Which one?
and whatnot. Like the first batch always does like the first semester of high school, and then the second semester of high school is still like the second batch of people.
What are those?
Ready to go.
Yeah. I don't know what the fuck they're doing in their college.
Yeah,
Now your college is a whole bust. You know what kind of people that go in their college? Damn.
I just.
I'm
He
dumb.
said you can make stuff up.
Okay. Do you know who goes to
Because all the stories were
college?
fake.
My girlfriend, no.
How this be like,
Yeah,
no,
you
life is
do.
extraordinary. It's
Fair
this.
enough.
It's fake.
Oh, I have some fucking stories about that. Nothing but problems.
Okay. Well, lay on the story.
There's too many theories around for those stories. Way too many. Other than they try to bribe and argue and give you bullshit documents all the time.
Not every college.
No, at my job.
Oh.
I sneak minors in all the time. And when they get mad and they don't win the fight, just they get even more mad. It's just fucking joy for me. Like, we'll try to like walk past thinking I'm not gonna eye people, but I do every time. And I catch them every time.
In my hand. Okay, you think I take a bite that thing? Look at me, Brody. He gave you his money.
Second I get any sketchy feeling about anybody, I can ID them.
It's definitely not.
We'll get the vibe check. The ID scan and the vibe check.
Me and Tasha on the same drive.
Yeah, no, I've been.
I was gonna go. First period. I was gonna go in here, but then there we go. I knew. So we walked in the hall. I saw her. So yeah, I'm going to do it. Yeah, we're going to do it.
You called me again where I was going to do a fight because he was drunk.
Oh.
So that was pretty fun. That was 2 weeks ago, Saturday.
And he did it.
They got arrested.
We go.
I once kicked 5 or 6 crackheads out of the stairwell at the same time doing drugs. That was pretty funny.
Have you ever kicked down the crackhead woman, all of the kids in the fucking lot?
Never been any kids, but I have kicked out women, yes. I've removed drunk people out of New Year's Eve. I was towards the end of shift, and I was a free agent escort around the floor, right? Anything comes up, I go pick it up. Turns out my buddy's working that night. He was going on the ATM shift because he's got to watch a key and whatever. I'll join you on that. So I go with him. Right. We got a call. Someone in the area we're in is drunk as shit. I go get him. I tell him to go. I watch the key. Send my phone. And then, you know, SWAT tech fixes the lock, switches the parts out. I get the key back. Go hand it back into the manager. So it's one of the big keys. I go back. Find it. Can't find it. Like, all right, whatever you know, I'll check the bathroom. So I spot it. I go in, yep, long and behold, dude's drunk as fuck, barely standing, he's picking him off the floor. Okay, cool. So me and him, I have to pick him up, one arm each, and then out of the way, we drag him out of the floor for everybody. I was across the casino. He got so drunk, he forgot the name of his hotel. And then he got mad because we were trying to help him call his brother or cousin or whatever. But his phone wouldn't call because he was on an airplane. We tried to fix it, he's ticket.
Maybe it's because he doesn't want his brother or sister to pick him up because he's been drinking and all this fucking.
No, they were there too.
Oh,
they were
my.
sober.
Oh.
But if they didn't come get him, the cops would have. Yeah, we don't give a shit. We'll bring it up easy.
Oh, I like changed up my ear.
I don't know, not too much.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I like that.
Crazy shit's
Yeah.
happening. I like the few
Show them
things
what's
that
wrong.
went wrong.
Okay.
But plus, you know.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, I got a small shift. I only got 4.5 hours Thursday. You know, something
Yeah.
happened.
I really like that. I feel like I'm cheating this all over my face.
I can just move the window. Oh.
No, I'd like that off.
Yeah, I don't think you're
I'm
on.
so parched.
Oh my god,
So I got out for like 9
Sucks. How much sleep?
Ever been to?
I've been here like once, twice. I gotta go to Penn Center after we get my phone screen like glass protector replaced because I had it in my cup holder.
Ooh, yeah. I should get myself a screen protector. Look at how many fucking scratches.
I cracked my protector because in my slot where I have my phone sitting, as you know, physics works, and I want one of those speed signs, you know, where they read your speed and tells you.
Yep.
Well, it turns out, go fast enough, they can't read your speed. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, so I topped out the machine to the point where it couldn't read my speed. It just blanked out. But that, in the process, launched my phone through my car and just clipped the side of my e-brake and cracked it. Ow! It's not a shiny crack, it's just tiny at the top corner, like right there. Like,
Oh, there you go.
I got replaced, fix it up.
I cheated. I cheated all over it. I
I'm
got
taking care of it. How fucking scratches are in this, are on this thing.
That's on the screen.
Yeah, that's on the real screen.
What model is that? It's one of the newer ones.
Yeah, it's one of the newer ones, which means it's made out of fucking styrofoam, but like,
Not my phone.
12?
Not my phone.
Maybe.
Look at you.
Other than that,
Domination breakdown. They lost 1632 signed up for two.
So 15% still.
okay, hang on.
There's 3 bands.
This thing is made out of screen. It's made out of nothing but paper, dreams, and styrofoam. These phones do not age well at all. It's not
I did the thing.
Android or something.
No, Android's so shit. It's the crap.
This just breaks open and you gotta like fucking work around.
My thumb is hurting like
I remember the old Android when you drop it, it would like break into a bunch of pieces.
yeah,
You gotta set it
fall
up.
out.
You gotta put it back together. Like,
Then you have the old Nokia where that thing could take
yeah, there was that thing could take a nuclear bomb blast. Yeah, and it went. You could use that thing as like bulletproof. That's the most expensive thing I've ever seen. I think that phones. I think that Apple. Okay, I think that Apple should like invest.
Oh, you're so big part right now.
Just like a video.
Yeah.
I need it.
Oh, yes. Oh, Dave.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, she's Apple iPhone, but it's bullet invested. It's amazing. You have billions of dollars.
I'm working bulletproof.
Oh, I get it. Shot at?
I mean, a garden paper gun. Kill that kills. The government's making it mandatory.
Fuck.
So we had bulletproof for small arms fire.
You need it, Lisa.
Big boys. The big guns. Well, of course, they're not gonna get a massive AK-47 out of my trench coat.
You heard what I said.
I wish we had better stuff. Like, I wish we had at least a guitar or something for the garage.
Oh, you guys have
Oh, okay, I found it. Weapons degree? No, but we just did a really big flashlight. There's a security camera, so we just make a story out.
At first,
I think that flashlight.
wondering. I wonder what kind of sounds like love bugs.
I beg your pardon? Probably for a time soon though, because of all the new hires, I'm the oldest one there, so I got support. Well, out of the new hires, my badge is the oldest. I'm the youngest one there by age.
I mean, my feeling.
My badge number.
My feel. My feel.
For all the contracts.
I messaged
So I was 2 full-time and a part-time just left, so
you like
I just gotta wait for them to
What did you get?
Yeah, so like when you get it, you start with the contract, it's like a trial. Once you're 3 months up, and they offer postings for part-time, it's a contract.
Yeah, but it's all hard.
If you get it, you get it. If not, try.
I already tried.
And then once you part-time, you try to apply for full-time. You just gotta wait for them to post the openings and then apply.
Yeah.
Should be soon. So.
Did you get to talk to her about that?
Obviously, I don't know. Can I look at this?
My thumb is healing at least. That shiny little bit of skin wasn't there last time.
Good security goggles. Everything else is just interchange bullshit.
It does look like a basic white fish. Well, maybe.
I think it's our part.
Sideboard. So.
Thank you.
Bacteria.
The only problem with me is that I'm short.
No, this is all.
It's expensive to get all the
Yes.
I hope it doesn't get it down to your
Oh, it
price.
doesn't.
I have a security license, but I don't even need it for that job. It's just required for me.
That one.
Plus, I have a bunch of other certificates, special shit.
When would you like to go back?
Like you need like a special certification. That's why ECGO. Alcohol. It's basically a special paper that says I'm qualified to work on a floor.
Oh, you're driving it. I used to be able to fly drones, then I crashed right into a pellet.
Yeah, because like. Yeah, I'm not sure but I'm sure you can tell this.
Oh, Alessia, I've been learning a silly bass part. I'm learning the roundabout.
Yeah, I guess you
car.
can admit to it that you made a mistake, and then maybe we'll be kind.
Imagine somebody slipping on that.
You!
Best prank
Oh
ever.
my god. You can tell why. Remember now. Is she done that? No.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Get pissed off.
No, no, it's right here. Right here.
They
It's right in my hand.
try to run it from my hand and they don't get what they want.
It's always you get to it's just
Like the song. Oh my god.
you got the sentence starter here, and then you got the blank, right? Listen.
It's even better when I get to like reject people that are like way older than me because it's
Great food.
like it blocks them all coming in.
Oh.
Where are they?
Right here.
What?
He hasn't talked.
I'll try this trick.
What did I miss? I'll be back in a second. I just need to look that up.
Okay.
You have to be responsible for a second.
Real close to being now, like 17. You're 18 now? You're 18? Oh, so you're in college.
Oh, no,
Just can't go to the casinos or do any of that stuff yet.
It's weird though.
But
There's like a little way in this of being like a full on adult. Right now I got I guess
Welcome to the tax bracket. I'll tell you that, at least you pay taxes now.
now we're gonna learn how to pay.
Just go to H&R Coffee and your taxes for you. It's $35.
How was your students?
Who's good? How's yours?
Pretty good.
she was making some
I'm okay. How are you doing?
You don't have to worry about it.
So no.
You don't take care of stuff. You take care of
Your
it.
hair.
No.
How are you feeling?
Ready? Comes the airplane. Oh. Ready? 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 I got a hold of it. You're the chomper. I'm the holder.
Ow! What
The
is
fact that they make it so
Don't do it again.
average normal people to not
I won't eat.
really says something about our government.
You didn't get like anything in there.
There wasn't anything in that thing.
Exactly.
Cash and
Get
stolen
it.
property on your
Three.
taxes still.
2.
They don't give a shit if it's stolen or illegal. They just want you to pay the goddamn government.
Oh my god.
It's
My
on
turn.
the IRS papers for instructions.
On your
I'm
buckets.
For me. Ready? Come on.
CRA isn't too bad.
I'm gonna hold it.
You just gotta
That was the smallest little baby bite.
When I squish the bread, I can't put it in my vegetables.
get the respect to treat others how you want to be
What do you do?
Nothing.
Golden
Oh. I helped people.
You help the people.
Yeah, because Chapman wasn't there today. Told you that though.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to be the teacher today. Ready? You gotta get the best photo. Why not? Remember? Just a little bit.
You're like a little teeny tiny. I wanted to bite your fingers.
Do it.
No. I only want to bite the one who's frying them.
Okay. Here. Get fry.
I think you marked your test. Did you have a test?
yeah, so I sent you the
Oh yeah, 94? 96?
94.
Awesome sauce. Oh, what are you doing to me?
Yeah, it's okay.
It was chopped leaving a stick.
I saw. Dude, did I show you what my brother... Did I show you Johnny and the gold... I just opened your chat to try... I'll show you later. I just opened your messages trying to get to Johnny's messages. Love you.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
You know I
I'm gonna
love
be
you,
I'm being you
right?
today. I love you so much more. You okay?
Just look like I'm okay.
No, it doesn't.
I'm okay-ish.
You don't always do this.
It's a wrap.
It's on standby. Take off.
I was basically just talking to him about how like I didn't know what I did to talk to you. No, I'm just like upset. It's okay. Ow.
What'd you do?
I hurt my jaw.
How?
Biting?
Why?
It's like a pretzel bun.
Yeah, you should eat it.
I was going to take a bite, and then you freaking picked it up. Did you eat any of it?
Yeah. Remember there was bites in it when
There was one bite in
there
it.
was 3 bites in it.
Did you have more than one bite? I mean, did you have more than 3 bites?
No.
You should have the rest.
No, you should. I got it for you. I ate all the fries.
Did you have the best of both? Oh, I thought that was Tim.
You know who that is?
No. It says right there, and I still don't know who that is.
You don't know who that is? Think. Who does it look like?
A mouse?
No. It's a person.
Who?
You know him.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do. You know this man. Who is it?
From where?
Who is it?
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't, Chief.
I swear you do. I promise. Imagine him wearing a green shirt.
Green shirt?
Yep. Imagine him wearing a green shirt and brown pants. Who does that look like?
Who the fuck wears green shirt and brown pants?
The character.
And
The show.
I got that for the $4.
what show? What does it start with?
Oh my god.
Starts with
Do you like my
an
what?
S.
Your thing, because it kind of matches his. I don't know. What's it called?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it does. On the scarf.
Oh, Lord. What does this show start with?
S.
School? School?
Scoo.
Scoo? Scott?
Yeah, it's just you.
Scoo?
Scoo.
Scooby-Doo? Oh. Is he fucking Shaggy?
Oh yeah, like yeah. So I messaged.
Oh, does he play in Scream?
Yeah.
I knew that before Scooby-Doo.
You grew up on Scooby Dooby Doo.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. It did. You do.
And I put mine as Jolly saying. Did you see the story though? Like I just.
Delivered. Tell us how he did.
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. No way!
No, not that one.
It's not the brown ones.
Oh, why not the brown ones?
Because I got these ones too.
Yeah. And the other one was
Yeah, they didn't come in.
Oh.
But they haven't come in yet.
Are they supposed to?
They haven't shipped yet.
You dated that for just like if you were dressed up as Santa, she would put it all over you. Santa, sexy Santa. Why would she be dressed like Santa? Oh, that's what
I don't know, but there's a lot of ways you can see it.
It is a skirt.
What?
What do you mean attachment? There's no pants. That's just the under part of the skirt. Well, shorts on. Yeah, I don't know.
Did you send me anything on TikTok?
That's what it says on the notes. It's like this skirt. Yeah.
What?
I'm going to fill my water. Did you need anything?
No, I'm okay. Have fun.
I will. Did
Don't
you want
trip.
passive Kleenexes?
I think I'm okay.
Yeah, okay.
Thank
It's
you.
annoying when your nose is all like.
Yeah, you're telling me. I think I like inverted it all the way up to here though, so we're good. Thank you. Stench.
Why did you mention this when we were under the
Cute.
What?
The hat.
How do
It
you
actually
forget
speaks.
that?
It has a speaker in it.
The last one.
No, it's for you. The rest is for you. Look at.
Well, I'll have top
Nope,
of that,
you want it.
please. You want it. Can I airplane you? One time, no, I mean like good airplane. One time I airplaned my mom and she spat her food everywhere.
Why? She died? You sure?
Oh yeah.
You're welcome.
People are getting mad at
What
this
the
proper.
fuck?
Then they yap faster for the entire semester. Normally because he yaps a lot. But
I think he needs some
like
salt on that.
it doesn't work. With the new batch of students we
I
have
think he
now,
needs some
especially grade school.
pepper
My
on
sister's
that.
having a really, really hard time trying to figure out what
I think he
the
needs
fuck
some
Mr. Cowper's
more
talking
salt on
about.
that.
It's gotten to a point where
You should Dip it in.
she had
Dip it
to,
for $1.
like, get
I don't want $1.
our entire family
I don't have $1 to give anyway.
one
Sorry.
specific problem. It literally turned into a fucking functions
Oh, it's for you.
equation firsthand
so
when I did it.
Oh, hey.
And then like it
Are
started
you
turning
unhinged?
into like so I don't even know what Calvin was trying to do. Alright? And plus it was this was like
It
very
was literally
difficult
ugly
linear
crying.
relations
I
Like,
can
in the
tell.
beginning
Yeah.
of the
dude,
course
my
right
lip
now.
was
It's been
like up.
3
It's like,
weeks and you're already
Good duck.
this.
yeah, it's like,
Holy hell.
I'm sorry, I wasted all of my time. I
I
didn't
can't
know I was
believe
gonna
being
do
in that class trying to
Figure
figure out
out
I'm not.
the yak master Calvin is trying to say.
Bring it with you.
I didn't mean to like.
It's okay.
At least I'd like the whole
No, you didn't.
entire
No,
lunch.
you didn't.
And Caden's not even here, and I feel so
okay.
bad.
Natalia, I was in line most of the lunch. It's okay. It's okay.
And you pee.
Yeah. And? You're late.
I'm sorry. I love you so much, and I apologize for wasting the lunch because I was a little bit tired. What?
I'm right at the door handle saw. What is it?
The thing that's
It was, right?
you,
It was all yeah.
It's not mine.
Promise. And I'm speaking in uppercase.
No, because that's so no, I don't have to. Yeah, that's
Pardon me?
and then there was that's not.
What?
You have to do flash.
Get your plate
No, it's
full
supposed to be.
after
They're
assault.
gonna use. I was gonna use the other one. For like the picture. So what's this one for? I don't know. I thought it was just like a disease, like 3 diseases. It's supposed to be like one of them. I didn't know. Yeah.
I thought you meant like you got to pick one of those and do one.
No.
No, you did all 3, but
Yeah.
it wasn't. That's
Oh my god. And it's okay.
whatever. You can do it. I believe this.
Thank
You want to see my fucking slashes?
No.
I can't even lie to you.
Don't you remember?
Like I feel like I have to add. You know how long? No.
Yeah. Did you do that?
I can't.
I win.
What did you do today?
I also got your
Sit down.
bitch. I didn't know today. My nails are in the
I don't even know. I'll get you next time though. No way.
That's good.
I can't walk around with all that. We just got these
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's actually, it's not like a
Yeah.
like it's not interpreted.
It's okay. Yeah, but that's
And I made mine.
No,
we don't be ordering.
No, that's
No.
And honestly.
No, but I was about to say, I was just to make
Yeah.
sure I got it right. Crazy vibe.
There's a girl.
And it was like, I was shocked.
No, that's okay. Because it.
I'm pretty sure I have some over. That's what I'm thinking about that. I'm like really gross right now.
I don't do that. I don't do that.
I'm gonna finish this first.
Thank you.
Technically, you only left an hour and a half ago. My dad.
All right. Oh, it's not my time yet. Carry on. See what you're doing.
Yeah.